I'm Javay, aka the Millennial Sexpert. I am a sex educator, pleasure professional, content creator, and PhD student. And I just literally talk about sex in every facet of my life, it seems. But I got started as a sex educator actually like in a roundabout way. When I graduated undergrad, I moved to LA to work in entertainment. And I hilariously planned to become the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Like that was my ambition. But I was working at a talent agency and I believe in like knowing how to do things before asking people to do them. So I was working in our digital department, which meant we worked with YouTubers. And I was like, I want to understand like what it is they do so that way I can like be the best at my job. So I started a YouTube channel and I was just talking about like the nonsense about like how literally nothing in life in school prepares you to actually be an adult. I was like, what the fuck did I just spend 4 years in college for?
Mhm.
And after a while, my friends were like, yo, you need to talk about sex on your YouTube channel. And I was like, you're right. I should talk about sex on my YouTube channel. And I like went to go make a video and I was like, I don't fucking know anything about sex. I was like, I can't make a video. I don't what? I was like, I don't know shit. I'm a 22-year-old bisexual woman and I couldn't even tell you how to have like safe or sex with another vulva. Like, fuck, I don't know anything.
Mhm.
And so shortly, a little while later, I ended up like getting a part-time job at a sex shop. And I was like, I learned so much, but then I was like, holy shit, like I love this. Like I actually like always enjoyed leaving work. Like I was never like, fuck, I hate this job. There might have been moments where I was like, oh my God, that client, that customer was like really annoying and like crossing boundaries. But like I never was like, I don't like doing this. I was like, I love this work. And a
Mhm.
friend of mine was like, oh, if you really like love sex ed and like want to keep doing like sexuality stuff, there's like you can get a degree in it. And I was like, hold the phone. I can get a degree in sex.
Uh-huh.
So I, on a whim, applied to get my master's in education and human sexuality and got into the program and just decided, fuck it, I'm gonna go get a master's. And fast forward 3 years, and now I'm in a PhD program because I was like, I should just keep going.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Where are you getting your PhD?
At the California Institute of Integral Studies.
Cool. And then I saw that you had flown to the East Coast. So do they have classes all over?
No, so those classes are only in California. My master's was original. I got my master's in Pennsylvania at Widener University, but I'm originally
Uh-huh.
from the East Coast, so like I regularly like go back because that's where all of my family is.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so there's only two schools in the US that offer programs in human
Yeah,
sexuality, and
right.
now I've been in both of them.
Good for you. Hell yeah. Really going for it. Because there's so many ways to go about it. So it's lovely to hear other people's journeys and how they got into this work because it's such a service to other people because not everyone's gonna do it, but everybody needs it. So
Yeah.
okay, so it's Kinktober, so we're going to talk about kinkiness. What does being kinky mean to you, and how do you personally practice it?
Um, so being kinky to me is just like it's like an unadulterated form of self-exploration. Like exploring your kinks truly lets you like dive deeper into the parts of you that like where there's nowhere else that you can like actively do it where you're like this is cool, safe, fun to do and like there's no judgment around it. Like you can't just walk around and be like, "You know what? I just want to be naked all day and have people look at me for the sake of looking at me." Like no, that's illegal. But in kinky spaces, you can be naked, do what you want, and have people watch you because they're into watching other people and it's totally acceptable. And so yeah, being kinky is like exploring all the parts of you that the regular part of society is like, don't do that, don't talk about that. And how do I practice it on the daily? Um, it's I practice in like so many different ways. Um, like I I guess I would best describe it as like I have like a non-traditional like DS relationship with my husband in the sense of like I use the honorific daddy with him and things of that nature, but like we don't have like that rigidness because I'm also a switch. But like we still have the aspects like we have the praise kink built into like our day-to-day conversations. Like if I make him breakfast, like he knows I have to give you, I'm gonna praise you for making breakfast, even if it's a fucking bowl of cereal, like you're gonna get praise. And I like have my bratty side, like so all of those pieces come together. I think that's the most like daily practice of like kink in my life.
Mhm.
But depending on the mood, like there are kink materials in arm's reach always in our house. Like if I'm just in the mood, I'm like, I need to be spanked. We're getting spanked.
So for people who don't know what these terms mean, like switch and all of the other ones,
Yeah.
just mentioned. What do they mean?
So a DS dynamic is a Dom sub dynamic. So it's essentially like a power dynamic in which the Dom like has power or control over the sub. And depending on the relationship, there is a full extent. Like some Doms have complete control over every aspect of their sub's life. Some Doms are more gentle Doms that are just like, hey, I'm just here to like comfort you and give you the love and pleasure that you desire. Other ones like are strictly like only in a dynamic in kinky situations and scenes that they have previously negotiated with each other.
Mhm.
So it really depends. But within our relationship, it's my husband being a Dom in the sense that he does have some power in our relationship. I use the honorific daddy with him and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And depending on how we like the mood of the day, how we talk about things, I may be in a sub role and just like obviously like catering, not catering, but like he's in control, so I'm listening to what he's saying. Or for the moments when I am feeling more switchy, that's when like we switch roles. So I will be in the position of power, and he will be in the position of in the submissive position. And so that's what that dynamic is. And being a switch just means you can go for either or. Like you're like, yeah, today I'm totally doming, and the next day you're like, I'm gonna be a sub. I don't want to think about nothing. You take the reins. But yeah, those are those.
Yeah, so obviously in terms of BDSM and kink community, like negotiation is essential. So how did you guys go about negotiating this relationship instead of just being like, we have a dom sub relationship?
Actually, it came about with a lot of education. My husband was not very like kinky before we met, not in the sense of like really understanding kink and BDSM. Like, sure, he
Mm,
was smacking booties during sex, and like if somebody's like choking me, he was doing it. But like not, he didn't have like the full like knowledge of what kink and BDSM meant. So it really came about because he started seeing a sex educator, and learning about all the different aspects that went into that. But specifically because working in a sex shop, I was obviously like helping a lot of people explore kink and BDSM. And then when I was in my master's program, I specifically worked at a sex shop, literally that was focused on kink and BDSM. It was called the Kink Shop.
mm,
And so the integration of like my day to day life and work came home. And so there was a lot more education that way. And like the roles just like, we were like, what are we feeling? What do we like?
mhm,
And so it developed that way from a place of like just like learning like what it is I do in my profession,
mhm.
and realizing like, oh, actually I like that. I'm into that. So that is how our conversation went. And it again varies. Some people are like, I already know I'm kinky. I just like met a new person. I want them to be we want to engage with each other. So let's just like directly talk about what we're into, figure it out, and define those roles from the jump. And for some people, like me and my husband, it is a longer conversation and process of like really exploring and figuring out for yourselves because you've never done it before.
So how often do you check in with each other when you're exploring this dynamic?
Um, Honestly, like daily, in different ways, but that's like we're also married. So I think that also changes the
Right.
dynamic. Like we check in with each other constantly because we have literally lived together. All of our lives are intertwined in a very specific way. And so we continuously have to check in for the marriage aspect of it, but then like how that also impacts all the other aspects, like hey, like if we do engage in something kinky in the bedroom and then like something comes up, like having a conversation like, hey, like there was recently something just like something switched and I just like broke down crying, and we like paused and like had a check-in with each other, like, hey, are you okay? Like what's going on? What do you need? So our check-ins are very continuous. Also because I'm a sex educator, I'm just like my priority is always communication, whether it's in a kinky BDSM situation or just a general like vanilla relationship. Communication is vital. So he
Mhm.
will get random text messages like just random Wednesday, like, hey, do you feel like I'm showing up for you in our relationship? Like he's like,
Yeah.
where the hell is this coming from? I was like, I just want to check in. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure you're like, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a very much ingrained into every aspect. And it's like vice versa. He also will randomly be like, hey, are you feeling like good about things lately? And I'll be like, damn, I taught you well.
Yeah. So you made this video about how being kinky isn't always what you think, and some people might be kinky and not even realize it, or perform kinky acts and not even realize it. What are some of those?
So obviously like spanking, a lot of people are like, yeah, spank me, and not realizing that is a form of impact play. It's like the entry to impact play in my
Right.
personal opinion. So spanking, you've got people who like to be choked, which is a form of breath play.
Mhm.
My favorite one that I don't think people realize is a kink is dirty talk, because it's essentially degradation. Because honestly, like I have never heard of any dirty talk that is not degrading. Like I've never heard people say something that was dirty that was like nice, like it's always like, oh, you're a dirty little slut. Oh, I'm gonna fuck you, you little slut. And so it's a form of degradation. And a lot of people don't realize, because I also think that when you hear the word degradation, you just like think that like it's rooted in like negative intentions and like you're intentionally trying to be hurtful. But I'm like, it's not hurtful if literally it makes somebody wet to be called a dirty little slut.
Mhm.
So dirty talk is like the biggest one that I don't think people realize. And like if you were literally calling somebody or being called something in the bedroom,
Right.
it's kinky.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there's like so many different things that people don't realize. Like, honestly, I consider mutual masturbation to be a form of kink, because you're being watched
Mm.
and you're watching somebody else. So it's a form of like voyeurism and exhibitionism.
Right.
So there's so many different things that you can be engaging in
Yeah.
that are like at the root of them, they're technically kinky, but also it's important to recognize that like kinky is objective. Like some people obviously don't think spanking is kinky at all. They're like, that's so
Right.
vanilla. Other people are like, oh my goodness, that is like so dirty. Like, I can't believe we did that.
Mhm.
So it's objective in the sense of like, depending on who you're talking to, they're like, they don't bat an eyelash. They're just like, yeah, that's what sex is, right? And
Right.
other people, it's like, I never thought to do that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
even to that point, like, being called, like, a good girl in the bedroom or being praised, like, that's a form of kink too, even if it's not degrading. That's, like,
yeah,
powerful dynamic play, like, all that stuff. So, it's true, it's like the world is so vast,
yeah,
and it is innately sexual. So, being innately sexual, you're gonna just naturally maybe dabble in things that are kinky, which makes it, like, digestible and approachable more than I think people realize.
yes, absolutely.
So what are some other misconceptions about BDSM and kink?
That it's like rooted in pain. I think that's the biggest one, which like mainstream media is honestly to blame, because if you watch anything and they're talking about like kink and BDSM, obviously somebody's been like beat with a paddle or whipped, or there's a flogger, or they're being bound and like blindfolded. And that is like a very small facet of kink and BDSM. Like not everybody engages in that. Some people are like, do not ever like freaking tie me up. I don't want that. That's not what I'm into. So knowing that it doesn't have to be rooted in pain.
Mhm.
And then another very, very common misconception is that the only reason people engage in kink and BDSM is because they were abused at some point in their life.
Right, right.
That is not the case at all. Like, yes, there are some individuals who do engage in kinky BDSM that did experience and survive abuse throughout their life, but that does not mean they went to kinky BDSM because they experienced abuse. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Mhm.
And it is honestly harmful with that narrative going around the way it is, because it further like stigmatizes kink and BDSM, and adds this like cloud of shame to it that doesn't need to be there. Especially when you consider the fact that engaging in kink and BDSM is rooted in safety, like the
Mhm.
conversations around consent, the way you negotiate how you engage in the activities, the education aspect. Like you shouldn't be engaging in kink and BDSM if you don't know what you're doing. Like you don't
Right.
just jump up one day and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna tie you up and hang you from the ceiling. Like you
Yeah.
learn. And so it's harmful because the notion is applied to it, but at the end of the day, it's like one of the safest ways you can engage in activity with another individual, because all of those important aspects of consent and boundary setting are there. Whereas like in typical regular like hookup culture and vanilla sex, half that stuff's not there. Half the time people are like,
Right.
okay, we're gonna hook up, and there's never a conversation about like safer sex practices or like what
True.
you actually want to do together. But if you are engaging in kink and BDSM with people that are truly involved in kink and BDSM and understand how to engage in it safely,
Yeah.
all of those pieces are there always.
Right, right, which is so interesting because when you think about hookup culture and how there is no communication, a lot of it's very surface level, like, some people feel weird about it after, but no one says anything, and it's like being disconnected with your body a lot of the time, not all the time, of course, but a lot of the time, it's like not being vulnerable, and that's just so normalized, and that's okay, and I'm not saying it's not okay, I'm just saying, like, when you compare it to being kinky, why does kinky get all the bad get the bad
Right?
misconceptions? Just because it's so much more than that.
So much more.
So much more it's meant to be satisfying. That is the whole point of it.
Yes.
And
Like how many people are just going through hookups and they are walking out the epitome of dissatisfied. Like
yeah,
it's it's there's it's mind-boggling to me.
yeah, yeah. And it is such a shame that the media just portrays like, you know, everyone always references 50 Shades of Grey, which just like completely lacks consent and is a completely inaccurate depiction of, written by someone who didn't understand the community, wasn't involved in the community themselves. Like, I mean, I'm making an assumption, but I feel like
Definitely not.
it's
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
not.
which,
They wrote emotional abuse porn, not
right, right.
BDSM.
When you think about just something like that going out in society, it's such a bummer. It's really
Truly.
a bummer. So, how can someone begin to explore their kinky side if they're not totally sure where to begin?
So I have like three big recommendations. So my first one is porn, which a lot of people are like, why would you tell people to go watch porn to like learn something? Because like porn is entertainment, which it absolutely is. It is entertainment. And also you can learn from porn if you know to go into it to look for certain things. This is where porn literacy comes in.
Right.
But using porn to like one, just see what the different kinks are. Just like go and explore the different categories. Ethical porn, y'all, go watch ethical porn, but see the different things that you've probably not thought about, or like you've like heard but you've never like seen with your own eyes, so you're like, I don't even know what that looks like.
Mhm.
Watching porn is a great way to actually like visualize things, because you can read all day but you're like, I don't know how this would work.
Right.
So porn is my first recommendation. The second is there's a few tests on the internet. I recommend the bdsmtest.org,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it lets you figure out like where you fall in terms of like what would seem interesting and attractive to
Yeah.
you. And it gives you like actual percentages, but it gives you like the language to know what it is it's talking about.
Right.
So then you can further look it up and be like, oh, okay, I understand what voyeurism is now, and like,
Yeah,
yeah, that
exactly.
really fits me.
Yeah.
So that one, and then lastly, like actually doing your research. I feel like a lot of people think that like everybody hears the word research and they're like, ew, that takes me back to school. That's like terrible. But
Mhm.
it's a necessity. Like you need to do your own reading. You need to understand like what does this look like in different scenarios, so you
Right.
can figure it out for yourself. And yes, there are a slew of different places you can go. Like, yeah, you can watch YouTube videos and things of that nature. I just recommend books because they have a little bit more of a vetting process.
Mhm.
Like, yes, anyone can truly like publish anything themselves, or like if you're getting like a major book that's like been sold like millions of copies, like other kinksters like are like, yes, this is a good resource, this person has been involved in kink or doing kink research for so long, like you know that it's good. Anybody and their mother can make a YouTube channel and be like, here's how you be a dom. Like, you don't know per se if that person is somebody you should be listening to.
Mm.
So I recommend books because there's a little bit more of like, yeah, okay, I know this. And you can also go to somebody and be like, hey, I saw this book was recommended on this website. Do you think it's actually a good resource to learn more about kinky BDSM if you already have kinky friends?
Mhm.
So reading is my third recommendation because you can learn so much from books. Um, and they're just like a lot easier to be like, okay, yeah, no, this is something that I can actually like trust and is like a reliable resource,
Mhm.
instead of anyone making an Instagram account, because anyone can do that
Right.
and it
Right.
doesn't look good.
Right. So what kinds of books do you recommend? Do you have any off the top of your head?
So there is the new book to topping and the new book to bottoming is a really
Right.
good one.
Mhm.
There are a variety of ones that are like getting into kink and BDSM, and I can't think of like the actual titles of them right now.
Mhm.
But I will this week be posting like a reading list on Instagram if anybody wants to see it.
Oh, great.
Because yeah, off the top of my head, I'm always like blanking. But yeah,
Yeah.
there are quite a few, and they all range in like the topics. Like some of them are specifically about DS dynamics, some of them are like how to actually do rope tying and shibari.
Right. Right.
Other ones are like, here, let me introduce you to all the different ways that you can get into like impact play, or like here's how to do needle play safely.
And what have you learned about yourself from emerging yourself in your kinky side?
What have I learned about myself? um I have definitely learned that it's okay to like let go of control.
Mm,
I definitely struggle with that. Like I've struggled with that my entire life. Like even to this day, like I still like I come up with a plan. That plan is gonna happen. And everybody's like, Javay,
yeah.
you cannot control life like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But
Oh my God, so relatable.
engaging,
I'm like,
engaging
tell me.
with them like makes me like give up some sense of control and like let things happen without me being the one to make them happen.
Right.
So I think that's been like the biggest thing that like it is okay to not be completely in control.
Mhm.
Um but we're still working on it. And I think I've also just like learned to love all the different parts of me that society overall has told me like I should not love, should not celebrate. Like
Yeah.
no, they are part of me. They're the kinky side of me, and that's a fun side of me. That's an authentic side of me. That's a side that gets to be uninhibited by like the he say she say of societal like rules.
Yeah. 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 And I think that that is one of the most beautiful things about it, and people are so afraid of that. And it's like kinkiness is here to tell you to not be afraid of it, and there's really safe, wonderful ways of exploring these sides of you that aren't bad. And just because society told you that they're not normal doesn't mean they're not normal.
Yep.
Society's given us all messed up messaging. So just remember that when you start exploring yourself and like finding yourself interested. And I think, in my opinion, I think everyone's a little kinky, like in some
Yes.
small which way or which form, even if you have the most vanilla sex and you enjoy the most vanilla sex ever. There's something in there, I'm sure, that will hit you, will like get that you need, that kinkiness can provide, perhaps.
Yes. I 100%. Everybody's a little bit kinky. Like, no matter how hard people try and deny it, like, there's something that they're like, but actually, like, I'm into this. And people be like, that's weird. And everybody has something. All the way down to like your grandma who goes to church every Sunday, has a rosary on her like every day of the week. Like, grandma's kinky too. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So, what can we learn from BDSM and the kink community about communication and consent?
Um, Definitely like how to be direct in communication. I feel like a lot of the time when it comes to conversations and communicating around sex and sexuality related things, everybody loves to beat around the bush. Like how many innuendos and metaphors do we have to describe everything sexual? Like it's a never ending list. But when it comes to engaging in kink and BDSM, you can't like you have to be like direct, like, hey, cool. So we are going to do an impact play scene together. We have agreed that we're going to use a riding crop, a flogger, and a paddle all within one scene. Like we've agreed to what parts of the body. Like you have to like truly be direct. You can't just be like, yeah, like I guess we'll just like figure something out. Like we'll just pick a instrument and just like go to
Mm,
town, just do whatever. No,
mhm.
you're going to talk about things directly. And I think that's the biggest thing we can learn is like how to be
Yeah.
direct in communication, because it doesn't serve anybody to beat around the bush and be like, oh well, like we're gonna do it. What's it like? You don't like we sexuality is so different. Like what everyone defines as sex is so different. So using innuendos and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it later tonight, that person could think that it is anal and you could think that it is like actual
Yeah.
like oral sex. So like being direct in communication is
Yeah,
important.
right.
Also because that directness plays into consent and like you're like, okay, I know what I'm consenting to. Like I know that I'm agreeing to actually come over to your place, let you tiny up, spank
Yeah,
me a
totally.
little.
Right.
And afterwards, like I'm gonna go home and you're gonna do your thing.
Yeah.
That is what kink and BDSM can offer that everyone needs.
Yeah, and so many people struggle to speak about their sexuality. So, what advice do you have for someone who wants to try to practice being more direct, but like feels uncomfortable talking about their sex life, about their desires? Like, where can they start to get more comfortable?
I always say start via text message. If you were somebody that's like, I can't look you in the face and have this conversation, don't do that. Start
Mm,
behind the safety and comfort of your phone screen. Like, hey, be like, hey, I want to talk to you about something, and like lay out all the things that would help alleviate your anxiety with it. If you're like, I want to share this with you, I don't need an immediate response. Like, please don't immediately respond. Like, sit with it, just like churn over it. Or if you're like, I just need you to respond, like whether you're like I just need like some type of response. Like, thanks for sending this. I'm just like sitting with all the information you gave me. Like, lay out what you need in terms of having that conversation so that way you don't create more anxiety for yourself. But like, use like text about it. Start the conversation there, because it is daunting and intimidating to like try and walk in a room with somebody and be like, hey, so I would much rather prefer it if you stuck your whole fist inside my vagina. Like, that can be super intimidating. So don't necessarily do that. Also, don't think that you have to come up with all the words. I feel like a lot of it too is that people don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about people like sex educators and social media. Like, there
Yeah.
are resources that you can use to like start that conversation, because you don't know where to begin or how to do it.
Right. Right.
So like, don't be afraid to send people those TikToks, the Instagram posts, the tweets that you see that are like, oh yeah, like I still do that. I still send my husband like, hey, I want to try this. I could not figure out how to tell you, but like, here's a TikTok that talks about it. I want to try that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
use that to be the starting conversation. And don't think that you have to reinvent the wheel of like how to talk about things. Like, you can
Right.
use the stuff that's already there.
Right.
Also, it's like, it's a lot easier because you can hide behind it if you're not fully ready to like step into it and own that you want to do that stuff. You can just send it as like a holy crap, what did I just watch type TikTok, and just be like,
Mhm.
see how they respond to it. Like, you can gauge things that way.
Mm.
But using your phone, using social media as the tool to have those conversations instead of trying to just do it outright on your own. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes we need a little help, and there's no shame in that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people sometimes have, like, blocks on their sexual lives, like, they have blocks on what they want, what feels good to them, and then they can't verbalize it. And some people have, like, no interest in diving into their sex lives. However, I do believe it's a very enriching experience, and if you find yourself sparked by it, you should definitely start diving in, and that's why, like, I mean, your accounts are such great source of inspiration, and you have all these workshops, which are just so friendly for people to come and, like, if they have an idea of how to learn something, which I think if you're kinky, like, you should learn from someone, like you said, with reading the books, but you also someone like you provides workshops to, like, even learning how to, like, spank properly is important.
Yes.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, so I highly recommend that people go look. Do you usually is Instagram um, your main account?
Um, for the most part, like, that's where you can find everything going on, just because, like, yes, Instagram does have some censorship, but like, I have not really like had the same problems with like other social media platforms. So for the most part, yeah, Instagram or my website. If you're ever just like, what's happening with the
Yes.
Women's Expert, the website is the place to go. But yeah, if you're just like, I want to know if Javay's got any workshops coming up,
Yes.
Instagram, they will be on Instagram.
Yes, and I will link all these things so people don't have to be like, "Where is it?" So yes. And my last question for you is one of your biggest realizations to date about sexuality.
I think my biggest realization has been how much sexuality influences all the aspects of our lives. Like, I think that a lot of people think that sexuality is just a bedroom thing. Like, it's what you
Yeah.
do by yourself or with a partner or behind closed doors. I'm like, your sexuality, and it touches every aspect of your life. It touches like how you show up in the world. It touches like how people perceive you in the world. It touches the way you move in and out of spaces. Like, sexuality is deeply ingrained into everything, regardless of like the popular narrative of like, no one talks about sexuality. Like, what are you talking about? It's not a thing that's like that public. But I'm like, it is. It's so
Right.
public. And everybody loves to act like it's not. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, because sexuality plays into everything.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you for saying that because people need to hear that and get it in their heads because it does. Like even the way you walk, the way you
Yep.
speak, the way you treat other people, it's
Yep.
all connected. The way you feel about yourself.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for this chat. You're so knowledgeable and I love learning from you. And I'm so grateful you made the time today to chat.
Of course. Thank you.
And we'll be in touch.
Yes.